Guys, it's Mel from Morrow and welcome to my October wrap-up. So October was just a weird month for me. I'm in Florida right now, so I'm kind of out of my fall element bubble, but I came to Florida with only one summer book and my entire fall TBR, and I just am not feeling the fall vibes. I'm literally in the most summery bubble ever, so I did not feel like reading all the books that I brought with me, unfortunately. So I feel like I didn't get a lot of reading done this month. I only read about 6 books. One of them is currently in progress, but I feel like I would have gotten way more read if I felt the fall vibes. So I think I'm gonna have to make a completely new TBR for Florida because it's not here for me. I just don't feel like reading anything I brought. Oh well. And the other thing is I don't want to buy more books because I won't be able to take them back on the plane because my luggage is already full, so I'm just like stuck in this limbo place. So I probably will end up reading a lot more books on Kindle this month. I have not used my Kindle subscription in a while. It's really bad. We're not going to talk about it. I still pay for it monthly. I don't think I've used it in like 6 months. So overall, I'm just gonna read more Kindle books. But my other issue is I'm not a really big ebook person. Like when I'm out of the vibe of ebooks, I'm out of the vibe of ebooks. I can't like force myself into it. It has to be a really good book for me to read it on ebook. So we shall see. First up, the book I just finished reading. I read this not too long ago. It's the Unhoneymooners by Christina. This is a big time summer read. It's very contemporary romance. It's very much so non-fantasy, nothing mystical, nothing magical, nothing nuanced or unique about it, honestly. Except for the fact that this girl is chronically unlucky, which was really funny. But the Unhoneymooners is a forced proximity, forced, like a somewhat of arranged marriage, like a forced arranged marriage, fake dating. Oh, it's a fake dating. It is funny, it's cute, it's a super fast read, and it definitely gives Jane the Virgin vibes. So if you like Jane the Virgin, I think you're gonna like this book. I gave it 5 stars, I think, for funniness, for entertainment level, but the world building was blah because it's our world. The plot was not that interesting to me either because it was misunderstandings, enemies to lovers, and I just could never really tie myself to those because the stakes are just never high enough for me. But I'm also very much so acclimated to my fantasy romance enemies to lovers, in which like there are enemies to lovers for like your clan killed my mom's clan and it orphaned me as a child, so I cannot fall in love with the enemy, which I feel like is way more interesting and nuanced than misunderstandings. Anyway, the Unhoneymooners is about Olive Torres. She is a twin and she is the unlucky twin. She has all of these really inexplainable mishaps, from a recent layoff to the fact that her life is comically jinxed. And her sister, her twin sister, is actually like kind of like a super person. She's like the eternal champion. She even was able to finance her entire wedding through a slew of contests. So it's very interesting, these dynamics between the twins. It definitely reminded me of Xiomara and Jane from Jane the Virgin, and it was very comically funny, and I really enjoyed that. I think this probably would have been my most tabbed book ever if I did not run out of tabs and I didn't listen to half of it on audio. So this was an audio and physical read. I did physically annotate it, which I really enjoyed. Heck, I have an entire reading vlog on this. Check it out. I'm so happy you guys responded so well to my reading vlogs recently because I get nervous vlogging. I always think they're gonna be so boring and no one's gonna want to watch them, but Olive has to go off on this exclusive honeymoon with her nemesis, the groomsman, Ethan Thomas, because they all get food poisoning from the wedding buffet, except for Olive and Ethan, and so they have to play out this whole fake dating, fake married lifestyle, and it's just really comical and funny. It has a little bit of spice, but I don't think my spicy lovers will find it super spicy. It's just cute, fun, and funny. This is totally a vacation read. This is a fun read. 5 stars. I'm not like a big romantic comedy person, so it was more of a palate cleanse than anything else. Next is actually, I did it, I started it. Kingdom of the Wicked and Kingdom of the Cursed. So these 2 books I started while I was in Florida. I actually have the 3rd book. Kingdom of the Feared is up here on my bookshelf. You just can't see it. It's like right there. But anyway, I think I gave both of these 4 stars. The hype was lost on me. I thought the hype was going to be better. I do like the stories. Let's just start with Kingdom of the Wicked. 4 stars. For those who don't know, Kingdom of the Wicked is like Hades and Persephone retelling, but also it has Akratar Twilight vibes, and it has very much a foodie scene going on. If you're like a foodie, one of the characters, the main character is a twin, and their family owns a restaurant, so like the food and the food themes are very prevalent. I got very hungry reading this book. I actually ended up ordering pizza one night because I was just so hungry reading this. So Kingdom of the Wicked is about 2 sisters, one brutal murder, a quest for vengeance that will unleash hell itself, and an intoxicating romance. Okay, so the romance was romantic. It is like enemies to lover in the finest sense of enemies to lovers. Like, I would define this as enemies to lovers more than I define this as enemies to lovers. There's actually like true friction of why she would not want to love him and why he should not love her. And there's like this whole major big plot mystery. It has the whole spooky cast. There's witches, demons, hell, I think there's a vampire, and there's like some side characters that I think are werewolves. So this does have like every spooky dooky cast that you can think of. Oh, and there's like talkings of ghosts, even though we haven't seen that many ghosts yet. There are talkings of ghosts, so ghosts are real in this universe. But overall, I just could not get to the hype. I give it 4 stars. I think it's interesting. I did physically annotate it. I had some favorite moments, but I feel like for the hype, it just didn't do it for me. And then again, I also feel like I'm burnt out on YA. So that's my other reason for this palette cleanse. I feel like I'm burnt out on YA, so I feel like I wasn't able to grasp it the way I wanted to. And I wasn't in my fall bubble, and pretty much everything wasn't working out for me. So reading this, I did an audiobook and reading it physically. I just wasn't grasping it the way I feel like I should. I'm gonna probably do a reread one day, but Kingdom of the Curse, I have to say, was also 4 stars. It just, I don't know, I wasn't part of the hype. I just couldn't get it. And that's fine. I think I need to reread on both of these, honestly. I did physically annotate both of these, and I tabbed them both. So maybe one day when I'm more in the vibes, I can physically read them. I still have Kingdom of the Fear to read. I wanted to read them because the last book in the trilogy was coming out, and the hype was so big, and I was like, this is the perfect time to have someone to talk about what these books about. Typically, if you don't read like a new release or a book that's like popping off at the moment, you don't have many people to talk about it, and the people you do have to talk about it, like, the hype for you is still very real and present, but the hype for them like dwindled months or years ago, so it's just like, oh, the conversation isn't as enthusiastic as it could be. So I really wanted to read these when the 3rd book came out because I knew everyone's going to either start reading the series or they're going to be finishing the series and they're going to be freaking out and gushing about it. And I was like, I want to be part of that. I want to have people to talk about books with. And I really have nothing to say about these really besides that they're 4 stars, and I was burnt out on YA romance when I was reading this, and it is fantasy romance, it is, but like, I don't know, they just didn't do it for me. Maybe the last book will do it for me more. I see what they're trying to do with it. It just didn't click. It wasn't clicking. So the Kingdom of the Wicked starts off as YA and then transitions into adult. And the last book I read is also a fantasy romance. This is a gothic romance, actually. It is perfect for fall. It is perfect for winter. It's Belladonna by Adalyn. This is a new release. This is indeed my beautiful, I think this is my Fairy Loot edition. Yes, Fairy Loot edition. And I love the hardback on this. It's just gorgeous. We have beautiful sprayed edges. I did not write in this one. I did indeed tab though for some of my favorite scenes. And overall I gave this one 4 stars. The beginning of the book was definitely reminding me of Unfortunate Children. What's it called? The Unfortunate Children series. I don't remember what it's called, but that's what it was reminding me of. And this is truly a gothic romance. It has the whole spooky dooky cast. There's ghosts, possession, a murder mystery, and death itself. But anyway, Belladonna is about Signa. She is an orphan, and unfortunately, as long as Signa Pharaoh has been alive, the people in her life have fallen like stars. They've literally died. Orphaned as a baby, 19-year-old Signa has been raised by a string of guardians, each more interested in her wealth than her well-being, and each has met an untimely end. Her remaining relatives are the exclusive Hawthorns, an eccentric family living at Thorngrove, an estate both glittering and gloomy, as its patriarch mourns his late wife through wild parties while his son grapples for the control of the family's waning reputation and his daughter suffers from a mysterious illness. Belladonna brings to life a highly romantic, gothic-infused world of wealth, desire, and betrayal. I think that's pretty accurate of a description for this. I gave it 4 stars. It's definitely I think it's a good read. It is a bit slow in some parts, and the stakes weren't as high enough for me sometimes, but I still really enjoyed it. I had a fun time reading it. It was good, especially for the season. Like, this is totally fall. Like, immensely fall read. I will be continuing the series. There is a sequel coming out called Foxgrove. I don't know exactly when it comes out, but I will be picking it up. And I like how all of the names are poisonous plants. Belladonna is a poisonous plant, and Foxgrove is indeed a poisonous plant. I think the next plant are, like, if this is a trilogy, could be called, like, Nightlog. That's another poisonous plant that we see comically in YA and dystopian themed books. But we shall see. But it still didn't scratch that itch that I wanted it to scratch. And then the next book I actually read is Corinne. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. I picked up this book because on TikTok, someone that I follow read this book and said that this could be Stephenie Meyer's writing. So Corinne is by Rebecca Morrow, and it's written under a pseudonym for a best-selling author. And a lot of people are speculating that this is Stephenie Meyer because of stylistic choices in writing and conceptual representations of different types of analogies and writing styles and metaphors and references within the book. So I was like, I've read Twilight a few times, so maybe I will know if this is a Stephenie Meyer writing or not. And it's in a completely different subject. Like, I went into this blind, like completely blind. But the gist about Corinne is adult fiction. It is about it's about 2 teenagers that grow up in the fundamentalist church, and one of them was born and raised within the church, and the other one was, like, her whole family was brought in as, like, saved into the church. So she didn't grow up with them with like the religious views that they had. She, as a child, was introduced to it. Her and her family. So this talks about her experience and her finding romance. I will read you guys the synopsis because I feel like even I cannot do this justice on explaining it properly. Cast out of the fundamentalist church she was raised in and cut off from her family. Cast out of the fundamentalist church she was raised in and cut off from her family, Corinne builds a new life for herself, a good one, but she never stops missing the life and the love she left behind. It's really interesting. I had no clue what this book was about when I first started reading it. Discovering what it was about while reading it was very interesting because I'm not a contemporary fiction person. I am very much magical worlds, magical people, new universes, but this was very interesting to me. I've never read anything like it before. I have mixed emotions about it, but overall I think I'm gonna give it 5 stars for intrigue. It was different, it was new, it was something I haven't seen before. And the next book is The Darkening by Sunya. This is about a fierce revolutionary and desperate prince. Together they will face the storm or be swept away. Another good fall book. I really picked them well for my fall season. But overall, I love this book. It's beautiful. It has a minimalistic cover, which is surprising since this isn't indeed a Fairy Loot book. But we also have end pages. Fairy Loot always does these lovely end pages. One on one side is a different scene than the back side. And I just really like it. It's beautiful stylistic choices, as well as we have sprayed edges, which are always nice. But anyway, I ultimately DNF'd this book. I feel like I'm burnt out on YA, and this is like kind of like the epitome of YA. It is about It is good. I just feel like I wasn't clicking in me. I was already burnt out, and once I put it down, I had no inclination to pick it back up, so ultimately I DNF'd it. But for the part I did read, and no, I read 70 or 80% of this book, I was going to give it 3 stars. I just wasn't invested in finding out what happened at the end of the story, so I was just like, DNF. And last but not least, Babel by R.F. Kuang. So this book is still great, it's still amazing, it's still a masterpiece. It was my carryover into October, but I will be carrying over into November because I did not read it in October. I really didn't. I was on this YA burnout, and I feel like this is more adult fiction, I believe. I think this is an adult historical fiction, something like that. Adult historical fiction, dark academia type thing. So I'm excited to read it, but I just wasn't in the mood. I think I wasn't in the mood to read overall because I was burnt out, but I think this will help my palette get even more cleansed. It's still great. For those who don't know, Babel is about... It's 1828. Robin Swift has been orphaned by cholera in Canton and brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lavelle. There, Robin trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he enters Oxford University, prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. So far, it's still amazing. It's still a masterpiece, but it's going to be a carryover for November. It's definitely going to be a November carryover. I just wasn't in the mood to read this month. I feel like I was burnt out. I didn't want to be burnt out on something I know is really good, so I'm going to pick around at my readings for November, but when the mood strikes again, I will be reading Babel, and I will be continuing the epic story of this. So that's all the books I read in October. About 5 books read. I'm still happy I read this much, even though like it was mass chaos coming from like Seattle to Florida on such last minute, and I had lots of stuff to do while I was in Florida, and I was having that reading slump, and I only brought fall books, but I'm in a summer bubble. But overall, I still enjoyed it. It was still a good time. Oh, my thoughts on Corinne. I think it is indeed written by Stephenie Meyer. The stylistic choices, or the person who wrote it was a major Stephenie Meyer fan. Because it's not just the stylistic choices of writing, it's also the same types of metaphors and analogies are used. The atmosphere has the same vibe, the same atmospheric vibe. I feel like it is there. I don't know. My theory is it's Stephenie Meyer, but then again, I don't know. It's a pseudonym. It could be anyone. And anyone can be inspired by anyone, so maybe one day we'll find out. Who knows? By the way, I did vlog my experience reading Corinne. I may or may not post it. And I did vlog my experience reading The Wicked. I may or may not post it. I'm practicing my vlogging lifestyle. Have you guys been liking the vlogs? What do you think? What's a book you want me to vlog? That's a good one. What's a book you want me to vlog reading? I like fantasy romance. It has to be high stakes, epic, fun. Hopefully it even has some humor thrown in, but I'm excited for it. Is Kingdom of the Feared better than all the other 2 books in the series? Because it's the last book in the series, and I really want to like click in me. I want to understand what everyone else gets, so we shall see. We shall see. Did you guys finish Babel? I think a lot of y'all finished Babel. And for everyone who's telling me they don't think they're smart enough to read Babel, I think you're smart enough to read it. I'm a big believer of like, worst case, just opening it go to the bookstore, open it, read the first 3 pages and see if you can vibe with the writing. But I think anyone could read Babel. The writing isn't too difficult for me personally, but I can see why people would think they're not like smart enough to read it. I can see why people would think that. But I say check it out. See it. But that's all, folks. Remember, I'm here every Friday. Be sure to subscribe, and have you been liking the vlogs? What book should I vlog next? What are you guys reading? Vlogging is hard. If there's any tips, give me a tip. Anyway, happy reading, guys. Bye.